Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing stonewalling causes breakups. So before we get into the podcast, I just want to let you know about my website, dateme.tips. That's www.dateme.tips. Do you need help trying to save your crumbling relationship? Would you like advice on how to try and get your ex back? Or maybe you need an action plan on how to try and get a girlfriend or boyfriend. I provide email coaching on all of these subjects and can help your specific situation. Visit my website dateme.tips to find out more details. That's www.dateme.tips. You will also find on my site the books that I've written, my clothing range, and other information. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing stonewalling causes breakups. So stonewalling is rude and frustrating behaviour when you have no desire to engage with someone who is speaking to you. You are present in physical form only and refuse to communicate with your partner. This could be from the start or suddenly mid-conversation withdrawing and taking your interest elsewhere. Someone stonewalling will show no signs of acknowledgement to their partner as they speak and a lack of effort or interest to respond or connect in conversation. So as you can see, stonewalling is a very frustrating behaviour to be on the receiving end of. And ultimately, it shows a lack of respect to the person that someone is stonewalling. So if you are somebody who is guilty of stonewalling, then you need to be made aware that it's not just something you can get away with forever, in particular in a long-term relationship. If you've got a partner, then you can't just think to yourself, right, I'm in a relationship, everything's fine, everything gets a bit mundane, I just don't want to hear them talking all the time, we've been together years, I can't be bothered, I just want to watch television, I want to read this magazine, I want to just look at what I'm online, I want to play this game, and just start, ignoring your partner throughout a conversation. As I said, stonewalling can be something that starts from the very beginning, as in your partner will start to try to talk to you and you just literally blank them, or it could be something that happens mid-conversation where you lose interest and all of a sudden you just start clearly paying attention to something else, in particular things like the television. That is a very kind of classic example. So what you need to realise is that stonewalling, it might not seem like the biggest problem that can be in your relationship, but if this is something which is consistent, it can cause breakups, because communication is one of the, if not the most important part of a relationship. If both people don't communicate correctly, if one person doesn't feel like they're being listened to, then this can start the slow destruction of a relationship. A relationship which is healthy needs communication from both people, and anything should be able to be spoke about. Even if there are disagreements, both people should be able to say their point of view, the other person listen, and just engage in conversation. Depending on the type of connection you have, you might get into a bit of a debate about things, or maybe that's not the type of thing you want to do. But ultimately, you do need to listen, and it's not just about the important, serious things. Each person in a relationship needs to feel like they are valued, and if you never listen to somebody, they are going to quickly start to realise that you don't value their thoughts, you don't value their opinion, you don't value their life, because if they want to tell you about what they've been up to, even if it's not the most exciting thing, then all of a sudden, if you're just ignoring them, they're going to think, well, they don't care. You don't want me for that. You only want me for certain parts of a relationship. And if somebody starts to feel like that, it is going to start the beginning of the end. And you might think I'm going over the top with this, but honestly, this can be something which starts very simply as somebody not feeling like they're being listened to when they just want to tell their partner about their day, tell their partner about something funny that happened when they was out, tell their partner about something that they've heard off someone, just something that's just conversation between a couple. And if they're not feeling listened to, then they're going to start withdrawing slowly but surely from the relationship. And it might start off with them just thinking, well, I'm not going to bother speaking to my partner. There's no point in telling my boyfriend or my girlfriend these bits and bobs about my day, because they clearly don't care. They're not interested. And then you start to withdraw more and more and more. And if you get to a point where you're just literally two people sitting in a room where you don't acknowledge each other, then you can see how this can eventually end the relationship. It could be many years down the line. This is often a slow burning problem, a slow burning destruction of a relationship. But nevertheless, it's something that needs to be acknowledged, because if you're guilty of stonewalling, then you just need to pay attention that these little things are what add up sometimes to becoming a problem where your partner loses emotional attraction to you. Because if they don't think that you're interested in them, then why are they going to put in the effort with you? It's going to come to a point where they think there's no reason for me to, because they don't care about me. They only want me for this thing or that thing. They don't actually care about me as a core. They don't want to hear about my day. They don't want to know about my feelings and my thoughts. So I'm not going to tell them. So when something a bit more serious does come up, they're not going to tell them. They're not going to tell their partner because they feel like they're not being listened to. And even worse is when somebody who is feeling like they're being stonewalled might start engaging with somebody else. So maybe they've got somebody they speak to when they're at work a little bit, and all of a sudden that starts to grow. And before you know it, maybe they're texting them, just kind of all innocently at first. But it's because that they've got nobody to talk to, because in their own home, their partner isn't interested. So maybe they'll just try to, inadvertently seek out somebody who is interested, subconsciously looking for somebody who wants to engage and have conversation. Because as human beings, communication is very important to us. We are social creatures, we need to be able to communicate. And if you are stonewalling your partner, then even if they don't mean to deliberately, they will subconsciously source out somebody who does want to listen to them, even if it's just about the mundane and the basic things of life. That is how things can develop. There is nothing more appealing to someone than to feel that somebody else finds them interesting, finds them fascinating. So you can see how this can build and really snowball into a huge problem in a relationship. So what can you do to prevent stonewalling? Well, look, nobody's perfect. There are going to be times where other things are going on in the room that you're in. Maybe something is on television that you really wanted to listen to, or maybe you was reading a book when your partner walks in and just starts talking. Okay, there's going to be moments where you are kind of paying attention to something else. That is human nature. Nobody is perfect. But you just need to make sure this isn't a common occurrence. Make sure that in the vast majority of times, if your partner wants to speak with you, then either make sure you make time for them to do it at an appropriate point, or, just pause what you're watching on television, turn it down, put your book down, put your magazine down, take your gaze away from looking at the computer screen. Don't just be looking at your phone, clearly messaging somebody or using the internet or something on your phone whilst your partner talks to you. Actually just acknowledge them. Put it to one side, look them in the face, look them in the eye, smile, nod, actually acknowledge and show your partner that you care what they're saying about and you're taking it in. It can be useful as well to sometimes paraphrase what your partner is saying to you back to them, just as that subconscious acknowledgement that you are listening to them. And that can be something which, adds even more weight if you are looking at them. There's nothing more frustrating than when in mid-conversation, somebody turns away and looks at the television. Somebody looks down at what they're reading, okay? Just keep the gaze. And if you feel that you need to be doing something else, if you feel that the conversation's becoming a bit too mundane, it's going on a bit too long, then just be polite, kind of take the conversation to its natural conclusion and just say, right, okay, I'm just going to finish reading this, I'm just going to finish watching this. And then, do you want to go on a walk? Do you want to have a chat about something? Suggest something where you can continue your conversation together as a team. Because ultimately, when you're in a relationship, you are a team and both people need to feel valued and both people need to feel listened to. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I hope you realise that stonewalling, it might not seem much at first, but it can snowball into a huge problem. Communication is probably the most crucial part of a relationship for it to last into the long term. And stonewalling really flies against good communication. So make sure you acknowledge your partner, make sure you're always talking to each other, looking at each other face to face, acknowledging each other, and make sure not to stonewall.